like for us, what we find is like, okay, cool. Like we use Adobe Firefly to generate a photo or something. If it's like a background element, it's not a big deal. Clients aren't going to care. But sometimes when you use it, obviously it looks AI, like it has a certain look to it. And then the client picks it up and the client's like, what is this? We don't like this. And we find it especially common with clients who are just like super niched, where they have to have a specific imagery that they themselves don't have. Like they have not collected an asset bank. So that's been really interesting. Like a good example is like cruise ships. Like a client might want cruise ships, but they want the cruise ship not branded. So you can either hopefully go find an edited photo on something like whether it be Unsplash or Vado or something, or at times you may just have to generate it. If you generate it, well, you better hope it doesn't put any red on it, because they'll go, oh, that's Carnival.
Yeah. The whole AI thing, like, I saw it. I can't remember where I saw it. I'd love to give you the reference so you can actually go back to it. But there was one that I saw where it was like in the advent of it, like when it kind of just started to become the threat. Mid-Journey basically was the word on everyone's lips at the time. And it was a design director or creative director, someone quite high up, quite a senior role. And it outsourced some work to, I don't know if it was a team of freelancers. I can't quite remember the relationship, but they were just using AI to do all of it, right? Like every request, it sounded like they were just feeding in those requests into Midjourney. And the creative director was getting annoyed because they were like, look, AI is great. I get it, right? Like I fully understand it. They're on board with it, etc. But it doesn't replace the people that push the buttons. Ultimately, you still would have to have a person in the hot seat to do the work. And these people were more junior designers, maybe mids. Definitely felt like they were more junior, because what happened was they were getting annoyed at the creative director because they were making changes in Midjourney, but they weren't addressing the creative director's feedback. So as an example, it would be like two people like stood in front of like a big bush or like, garden wall type thing. And the guy, there's a guy and a girl, and the guy's in a blue t-shirt, right? And the creative director was like, oh, can you remove some of the leaves from just behind the guy? And then he'd get it back, but then the t-shirt's changed color. And he's like, well, why is the t-shirt a different color? And they were getting annoyed because they were like, well, he doesn't like what we're doing. He's like, no, you're not doing what I'm asking. It's a very different thing. So this is why I say, like, you have to know why it's useful. You have to know the limitations of it. And on your branding point as well, that's huge. Like, I think that's definitely on every kind of corporate business's mind, is like to not like brand stuff up. Especially, like for myself, especially with what I work in now, it's imperative that we don't use branding. We definitely try and be as generic as possible. There are definitely like known brands in certain areas. One that my mind goes to is Chili's water bottles. Kind of came out of nowhere, became a big deal. But obviously we wouldn't show a Chili's water bottle. You'd have to show a generic metal, water bottle of some sort. And you have to kind of prompt it to be like that, notwithstanding the fact that like half the time, because certain things are so prolific as a brand, that is the only reference. Like, so if you were to put in like a certain thing, you would just get back something that's obviously branded, and then you have to do the extra steps of unbranding the thing. And then that's where something like, like Gen Fill, like people get annoyed at AI, and I'm like, you've been using it. You've been doing it yourself without even remembering it, because Gen Fill just feels like an extension of Photoshop. And then you get all like pissy about, like Mid-Journey, Runway, Stable Diffusion, all of these other models. You just get annoyed because that's the more obvious AI. So yeah, like it's not perfect. It works, and when it works, it's great. And if you know how to use it, it's phenomenal. But you just have to know where in your creative journey it lands. For me, like with the motion collab stuff, a lot of the time I'll just go straight into Stable Diffusion just to start concepting out ideas really quick, because I can basically just get like a not real time, but I can get a very quick approximation of what I'm thinking and whether it'll work. And I don't have to labor on like the Wacom tablet or go on my iPad and start pulling in loads of references. I can just bish bash bosh, done. In fact, I actually did a load of, I think when Stable Diffusion was very sort of new, I actually used it to generate a load of stuff for the Rain motion collab, and ultimately used it as lighting reference for what ended up being my 3D output. And I was like, that would have taken me so long to do outside of AI. Like it would have just taken me, a couple of days, which I didn't have at the time. Notwithstanding like the kind of firing up the creative process in your head, you know, like where do I go for the reference, pulling that into a mood board, starting to like design stuff in Photoshop. It just took all of that away, and I could focus on the bit that I wanted to focus on, which was the 3D and getting the lighting right, putting in the right models and optimizing the scene there. So suddenly, like, my process got truncated in a way that actually helped me out, not made it more of a challenge. And that's why I'm saying it's useful, it's there. You know, there are some people who are stunningly good at it. You know, Bobby is my go-to reference because he's such a good, like, my God, the man has talent. Like, Jesus, the stuff he puts out just mind blows me every time. I'm like I just want to be like a shred of that skill if I could have, would be insane. But, you know, he's not someone who might need to use it in my mind because he's so gifted outside of it. Whereas someone like myself, you know, and probably yourself as well, we work in a very fast-paced, social, you know, first kind of industry. You know, things move far quicker than I would have time to invest in a way that, like, you know, that Bobby does. But not that I'm not appreciative of his work. I'm just saying that it doesn't quite one-to-one with the industry itself because of the pace of the industry, which in of itself is a problem, right? Like we shouldn't be going so fast that we don't have time to actively create. Yeah, that's my about 40 cents worth of info.
No, you're right. For concepting, I mean, visually it's a fantastic tool. In many ways, even when we're creating graphics or things like that, I'll use it for like icon generation, things like that. That would just save me 30 minutes in Illustrator. Great things like that. I will not trust ChatGPT with brainstorming. It was like, cool, we have an hour to make a graphic, and this is telling me I have to buy a physical canvas to do water painting. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I definitely think there is something to be said for the fact that AI is fundamentally not that smart, to a degree. In fact, it's funny that you kind of get, because what I use it for a lot, actually, you know, the likes of the sort of text models is, you know, like we use Gemini obviously because it's Google based, but I love it for like helping me make like decks, spreadsheets, that kind of stuff. It's interesting actually how it can be useful for like expressions. I actually gave it a task the other day, so whenever I start a new job, I love to build out like a template After Effects file, and it's kind of like the thinking of, if I build a 1920 by 1920 square, everything will fit in it, and then I can have my, you know, 4.5, 916, 1.1 pre-comp, whatever. And then within that, I'll build like a, you know, just a null layer which controls, like, I can tick on and off, like, you know, logo top left, top right, whatever, like there's a drop down there. You know, I can like color fill it, or I can white it out, or whatever. You know, all of these are just standard brand anchors that live, you know, every company will have them. So I love to do that. And I just gave it that simple task of like, you know, I want to build a master file for brand X. And I want it to do X, Y, Z. I want to have, you know, so I just basically put my thought process in, and it will spit out something that's viable. But then the other day I was asking it how to pull data from one spreadsheet into another, and it just would not. In the master spreadsheet, there's like a line that skipped, right, just to allow for the content to flow below, and it just could not figure out how to skip that line in the sort of secondary spreadsheet that it was pulling into. And I was just so 6 hours, Grant, 6 hours of my day was lost to trying to get it to do what I wanted. And ultimately my soul was just to add in a line manually, and then it would still break. And I was just like, oh my, like I just got to the point where I was like, I'm done with you. No more of you today. It's almost like kind of talking to a kid, in the sense of like, you kind of have to rephrase yourself so many times to get to a solve. And ultimately, fundamentally, you're still saying the same thing. Yeah. But it will keep getting it wrong. And I'm like, but why are you getting it wrong? And then I get into like, you know, I had got stuck in the mindset of like, well, now I need a more professional to help me do this, because I don't know what I'm doing, and, you know, AI isn't giving me the right answer. So now I'm stuck and I'm the idiot, because I've just been like banging on this door for so long and there's no one to answer it.
I feel that. I will say it's been a fantastic tool, like you mentioned, for After Effects. I used it recently where some people just need some lower thirds that like you actually mentioned earlier into the call, where the box just expands with the text and has a little bit of padding on the side. And I was just like, I just don't want to deal with the expressions today. And I just asked GPT to do it for me. And it's like, yep, here you go. I was like, cool, plug it in, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's wicked when it gets it right, but it's painful when it gets it wrong.